Green Team Academy podcast, episode 66. Tune in to hear how regular people like you are making environmental policy changes at the local, state, and national levels, and how you can too. Hey, are you ready to make a positive impact for the planet? If so, then you're in the right place. My name is Joan Gregerson, and I am an eco-nut. Thanks for joining me today, and don't forget to head over to the greenteamacademy.com website to pick up plenty of other resources to help you on your way. And with that, let's get started. Hello there, Green Team. Welcome back. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me today. This is a really important topic, and one that I think that there's generally a lot of hesitation around. So if you stick around, I know you're going to feel better by the end. So the focus of this episode is environmental policy making. And, there's really three basic levels that we can work on. One is our personal choice, and that's great. You can start making changes immediately, but your impact is limited. Next is bringing together a team in your community, and that's where you start picking up some power and getting different skill sets and ideas, and that synchronicity, all that stuff starts working in your favor. But even when you do that, you're going to be realizing quickly that the rules of the game, the laws, the regulations out there are going to limit what you can do, or they're maybe even going to be creating the problems that you're facing. So if we are able to then know how to change those laws, we're going to be able to be much more effective. And the combination of working at a personal level, community level, and at that third environmental policy making level is the most powerful, and it's going to make you feel the best about doing this kind of work. So this episode is based on a workshop that I convened for the Green Team Accelerator Lab, and it was held on October 8th, 2019 in Lakewood, Colorado, and we had 4 different speakers who were they're just regular people like you and I who have had experience actually changing the course of their city's, state, and national legislation. So it's an exciting topic, and it's one that I realized when I was doing Sustainable Revolution Longmont that we actually changed the course of the city. And I'd never been to a city council meeting or anything before, and it was a big shock that normal people like you and I have that power. So in this episode, on the show notes, you'll be able to click on each link and then go to a profile of each of the different projects that were the different speakers that are being highlighted. So first up was Joy Opp with Sustainable Wheat Ridge. She's a co-chair of this volunteer committee, and Wheat Ridge is a community of about 30,000 people northwest of Denver, Colorado. And this happened because the mayor at the time, Mayor Joyce J., put out a call for applications to start this sustainability committee. And what they did is in the first year, they developed this action plan. And although it wasn't formally adopted, it was approved. And so they took off, and as of October 2019, some of the things that they've done is they developed a logo and branding around the sustainable Wheat Ridge, which, I think that's one of the steps a lot of people skip right over. But if there's not a visible way for people to understand, oh, wow, this is a real thing. This is how we think of ourselves as Sustainable Wheat Ridge. So that was an important step. They've also done a tree planting. They've done rain barrel kit giveaway. They've worked on developing a green business recognition program. And now the city has hired a half-time coordinator who is going to start in January 2020 to help work on all these things. They are developing a Wheat Ridge Sustainable Neighborhoods program. They received a Charge Ahead Colorado grant and added an EV, an electric vehicle, to their city fleet. And I think one of the big things that they've been able to do is they have partnered up with a program called Partners in Energy, which is with Excel. And it's kind of cool because Partners in Energy, Excel's program, realizes that they need to be working with the community. And so what they're able to do with this is go out there and table at events. And because there are a lot of city events like bicycle races and music festivals, the city often gives Sustainable Wheat Ridge committee members a table so they can be there and have access to people, and they're signing them up for energy audits and giving away free LEDs, all that that comes through their partnership with Xcel Energy. And in 2020, they're planning to launch a Sustainable Neighborhoods program. They'll be hosting quarterly community engagement sustainability events. They're launching the Garden in a Box program with Resource Central and Denver Water to have water conserving plants. And for community members, they're planning a 2020 Earth Day event. And they're applying for a Partners in Places grant and working on this urban prairie project. And another interesting thing I think that Sustainable Wheat Ridge did was they did not have compost collection as part of the city services. And so what they did is they recruited a local business to come in and start serving Wheat Ridge. So now the business Scraps will be offering compost collection in Wheat Ridge. So that is a really cool story of somebody working at that committee level to make a big difference. So that's Sustainable Wheat Ridge, and that was Joy Opp that shared that with us. So next up on the agenda was Christine Brinker, and she's a member of a volunteer organization called CASE. It's Citizens Alliance for a Sustainable Englewood. And Englewood is a similar size to what we just heard about of Wheat Ridge, about 34,000 people in a community just south of Denver. But the difference is that in Englewood, it wasn't something that the mayor set out. It was just more a group of about a dozen volunteers that came together in 2017 to work with city council members and residents on cleaner energy, sustainable land use, waste reduction, and financial responsibility. So the group came together in 2017, and as Christine was talking about, it was kind of cool because in 2018, right off, they felt like they had three quick wins. They worked with and pushed the city to do these three things. First is they asked the city to calculate the baseline greenhouse gas emission levels, and the city said, okay, and they did it. The next was they urged the city to go ahead and move forward with a project to recapture biogas waste from the water treatment plant. So this was something they had seen that it was being flared, the excess, the biogas from the waste treatment plant, the water treatment plant. And so the city decided to, go back and go ahead and do a study. And they looked at all the options and they chose one, and that biogas treatment plant is just going online. They're doing like the big opening in October. The third thing was, as part of that exercise of when they asked the city to calculate its baseline greenhouse gas emission levels, that was due in part to after at the national level where our current administration was saying, let's pull out of the Paris Accord, this CASE group was looking to Englewood to say, well, how can we take steps to basically meet something similar to the Paris Accord? And so what they found out was that they weren't too far off at the city level. So this is the municipal level. And there was an opportunity that came up through Xcel Energy, who is the power company, gas and electric power company for this area, to participate in a program called Renewable Connect. And so the case group looked into it and found out that the city could purchase 40% of its municipal electricity. So that's the electricity serving the properties owned by the city, so the city buildings, that the city of Englewood could purchase 40% of its electricity from renewable sources through this Renewable Connect program, and that will reduce emissions and provide a cost savings. So that was a really cool start, and I think you can see how interesting this is that, you know, we feel like our mayor, our city manager, our city council, city staff would already be on top of this, but you know, they're working on a lot of different things. And so to have a citizen group come together and identify things and help research them and partner with the city who does report to us, right? That they're able to make these things happen fairly quickly. So then on to 2019, and CASE continued and expand initiatives. And you may remember from the previous episode 65, talking about pollinators, how People and Pollinators Action Network was partnering with a couple cities. Well, this is one of them. And so they are partnering to plan and design a pollinator-friendly demonstration garden in Englewood with beautiful native low-water plants and flowers. Another thing that CASE did in 2019 was they worked to help pass 2 different environmental bills at the state level. And so one of them was working with State Representative Meg Froelich to launch, support, and pass a new law setting minimum energy and water saving standards for 15 different commercial and residential appliances. And the second one was to help pass a Colorado law improving local building energy codes. And so that's kind of cool, right? That a group like that can go and testify at those hearings and say, we represent the residents of this city, and we're in favor of this. And sometimes those representatives that are working things, they need a bill to pass. So sometimes they'll take suggestions from people in their community, and they also need the support from folks to be able to step up and speak up to help show that this is something that is important. So the next thing they did was they helped get something added to the Englewood strategic plan. So Englewood, the city, has this strategic plan, and it didn't have any words like a sustainable natural environment as one of the goals. And so that's really important when you're making decisions. If you don't have what is this impact going to be for the long term, then you could see how it would just get passed over in the decision making. The next is something that they're doing to do outreach to the residents of Englewood, and there is a city magazine that gets delivered to every mailable address in the city on a quarterly basis. And so this CASE team writes an article for each one of those in order to help get the word out. And the big issue that they're taking on in 2019 is they're talking trash. So they're taking on the issue of the trash hauling system. Right now, individual residents can choose whatever company they want, and as a result, it means that you've got all these different trucks going down these quaint little dirt alleys in Englewood, and so it tears up the roads. There's a lot more air pollution, and there's no minimum requirements. Like recycling is not necessarily included as an option of every single one of these companies, and it's loud. So what they're proposing is for the city to contract, and this is happening in a lot of different cities. They'll do a contract with one company and do it for a certain number of years and have some performance standards. So what CASE is envisioning is that this system would not only would it provide cleaner air and quieter streets and recycling to each person on that route, but it would also save money from reduced wear and tear on the roads, and it should come in at a lower cost than what people are paying right now, because it would be fewer trucks doing the same amount of work, so it should be a cost savings to individuals. So remember that Christine Brinker, who was telling us about all this, said that this was a group of a dozen people that came together in 2017, and then they've been working on all this amazing stuff. So again, and what Christine said was, if you're somebody who is starting with no clue whatsoever, then you're exactly where I was when I started all of this. So whether it's, working to change things at the city level, getting greenhouse gas inventories done, or helping pass state legislation, this is just regular people coming together and doing this in Englewood. So next up on our agenda was Jasmine Barco, and she's outreach coordinator with EcoCycle. And I wanted to include Jasmine because she's not working as a volunteer, but what she does is she does partner with many of our volunteers to help people. And there's a lot of us that have been working this area as volunteers, and to let you know that maybe working with an environmental nonprofit would be another way for you to take the next step to make a bigger impact. So EcoCycle was founded in 1976 by residents who wanted to bring curbside composting to Boulder, Colorado. They've gone on to grow and really be an internationally recognized innovator. But in recent years, they turned their attention to Denver. Well, you might think that Denver and Colorado are so eco-friendly that we would be knocking it out of the ballpark with recycling, but unfortunately we're not. And the national average is 34%. Denver just inched up from 20 to 23%. And this is about half of our peer cities like Salt Lake City, Utah, and Austin, Texas, which are at 40% recycling. So, and Denver also lags across just Colorado, where Loveland is 61%, Boulder 54%, Longmont 31%. So what is creating the problem? Well, the city of Denver reports that of everything that goes to the landfill, that 25% of that could be recycled. Another 50% could be composted. So why is 75% of our waste stream unnecessarily going to the landfill? Well, there are a lot of details, but it kind of boils down to how waste is priced and collected in Denver. A lot of people like me, I'm living in an apartment building, so I don't have recycling or composting unless I go and contract with a company individually, or I go drop my stuff off personally. Businesses produce half the city's trash but have little incentive to recycle and compost. Residents that produce more trash pay no direct fees, while residents that take the positive step of composting with a curbside cart have to pay to do that. And Denver residents and businesses might not also be aware of the importance of all of this, as well as the ease and the different options that are out there. So one of the things that EcoCycle has been advocating is a pay-as-you-throw pricing structure. And what this does is kind of a quick example of it from my experience. When I lived in South Korea, it was free to deposit your composting. It was free to deposit your recycling at your building. But if you wanted to send anything to the landfill, you had to buy a bag. And so that's kind of pay as you throw. And so that's what they're proposing, is to reprice, change up the system so that if you are composting, you are recycling, that you pay less than someone that creates a bunch of waste going to the landfill. So that is what EcoCycle has been working on, and you can read a lot of the details here. But another important part of this that I wanted to mention is that that Denver has a sustainability goal for reaching waste diversion of 34%, which is just the national average, by 2020. And as I just was showing you, like, we're still such a long ways away from it. But composting is the key to helping us get there. And so this is a very interesting report that is linked here, which is how Denver can achieve sustainability from the ground up. And so I think a lot of us think that it's going to be all about recycling and other stuff, but since 50% of the waste stream is organics, then if we're ignoring that, there's no way that we're ever going to get to that that sustainability goal of 34%. And the benefits of composting, as we've talked about in some of these other episodes, is that it's a powerful climate action. It helps with soil and water conservation, helps us generate healthy food, and there's a lot of green jobs and economic benefits to all of that. The other thing that Jasmine talked about was that that they're doing a lot of work at the state level. And she highlighted an organization called Recycle Colorado. And what Recycle Colorado is it is a member-driven organization that's working to advance state and local policy. And so, remember that if you're working on something and it's frustrating, you probably haven't found the partners out there, and they may already be coordinated in a group like this. And one of the things that Jasmine said was a really cool thing to do is lobby day. So Recycle Colorado has lobby days where they set it up so that you can go, people that are interested in waste diversion topics can go and talk to their legislators and make a difference by sharing your experience as a citizen or as a business that's working in this for this. All right, and in 2020, there's already bills that are being proposed, and interesting that Meg Froelich is one of those that is supporting that. So you'll be able to read about that in the notes here. And there's actions you can do. You can do things like sign the letter to the mayor, attend Denver City Council meetings and speak up, participate in the Denver Compost Challenge. There's another podcast episode on that you can check out. And as I said, participate in the Recycle Colorado lobby days. All right, so that is EcoCycle and all the cool stuff they're doing. Our last speaker at the event was Thomas Tafoya, and I decided to just go ahead and make the next podcast is all about Ian. He is incredible. This guy has been working at changing policies at the local, state, and national level for quite a while, even though he is a pretty young person. I believe he's the youngest person to have run for mayor in the city of Denver. He does a ton of interesting work. And so you can just segue right on to episode 67 to hear about all the things that Ian has been doing. All right, so that wraps up the environmental policy making episode. And so remember, we heard about Joy Opp with the Sustainable Wheat Ridge, Christine Brinker with CASE, the Citizens Alliance for a Sustainable Englewood, Jasmine Barco with EcoCycle, and then on next episode, you're going to hear more about Thomas Tafoya. So I hope that this emboldens you, empowers you, gives you that confidence to know that, yeah, definitely you can get a group of a handful of you together and start thinking about what you want and asking, because, as all these people have shown, that if we don't step up and ask for it, then how do we know if the answer is going to be yes or no? So the first step comes by getting together and making those asks, and then working in partnership with our governments to help be the change that we want to see in the world. Thanks so much for tuning in again today, and remember, the time for action is now, because there is no planet B. See you soon. Well, that's it for another episode of the Green Team Academy podcast. Remember to check out all the resources to help you make a positive eco impact in your community at greenteamacademy.com. Thanks so much, and see you right back here soon.